These are 10 of the worst things to happen to Joe on Family Guy. Starting with the time Peter and the guys destroyed his prize pumpkin the day before the big competition in Peter Pumpkin Cheater. So it's Halloween and Joe's been growing a humongous pumpkin. How'd he get it so big?
You guys promise not to laugh?
Yes.
I wished for it.
Well, I made no such promise. Oh boy, this episode is off to a great start.
Every year I enter Quahog's Great Pumpkin Halloween Contest and get creamed by that dang Patrick McCloskey.
Oh, that Patrick McCloskey. Everyone always gets beat sooner or later by Patrick McCloskey. I have no idea who that is, Joe.
Wait, weren't there weird rumors about him and Bonnie?
No, it's just the pumpkin thing.
Something tells me it's not just the pumpkin thing. And this season, Joe is all about pumpkins. It's literally the only thing he wants to talk about.
What were we talking about? Pumpkins?
Shut up about the pumpkin!
Somebody had to say it. Thank you, Cleveland. To punish the guy for having a hobby, the guys decide to prank him.
Hey, what if we hid Joe's pumpkin before it gets picked up for the fair tomorrow morning?
I'm way in.
Great idea, Peter.
So the guys go to hide the pumpkin. The problem with that is they didn't decide where they were going to hide the pumpkin.
Am I the only one who can make plans? I have decision fatigue.
Oh good, it's been a minute since I've seen Joe go absolutely ballistic. This should be fun.
Step aside.
Now let's remember, it's just a pumpkin.
But based on where Joe points that gun, it's much more than just a pumpkin.
We can just shovel the rest of the goop back in and prop it up.
We can't just scoop 307 pounds of pumpkin guts in there.
But what if you had someone who was exactly 307 pounds who could fit in there? If you can't fix it, fake it.
I think I could slide in through the hole in the bottom. Then I could just sit in there for a few hours and maybe you can still win the contest.
Sounds just stupid enough to possibly work. Even if it doesn't, shoving Peter in a pumpkin could be fun at least. At the event, we're finally introduced to the Pump King himself.
Let me get a closer look at your pumpkin. Could barely see it from over there.
Ha! Classic McCloskey.
Well, I bet you've never grown a talking pumpkin, have you, McCloskey? And the winner of the Great Pumpkin Contest is...
Joe Swanson!
Yeah!
So his winning pumpkin gets hauled off to the state Halloween contest in Providence. I hope Peter doesn't have to go to work tomorrow or anything.
It's gonna take us hours with all these pumpkins. Peter!
Yeah?
Oh, wow.
But an appearance from a suspicious McCloskey keeps them from letting Peter out just yet. At least he has all the pumpkin seeds and innards he could ever want to eat inside of there.
Something is off with this pumpkin.
Don't hate me because you hate me.
Sick burn, Joe. You sound like you just woke up from a mid-2000s coma.
I have to go to the bathroom more than the pail in here.
Well, the jig is up. For everybody, apparently. All of the pumpkins were filled with heavyset guys, and according to McCloskey, that's the only way to win these competitions.
No real pumpkin is ever over 20 pounds.
But yours always are.
My fat son sits in mine every year.
And just like that, he rides off into the night, no doubt in search of the next vegetable he can center his entire personality around.
I gotta put some thought to this, but I think I may be in love with that guy.
And it was his love of his daughter that drove him to go into crippling medical debt, forcing him to try to rob Carter Pewterschmidt in Ocean's 3.5. So the guys are getting annoyed at Joe for constantly flaking on them just because Bonnie could go into labor.
Joe is just gonna keep bailing on us until that baby comes out of Bonnie's butt.
His science is a bit off, but I guess he does have a point. It's been how many years at this point? Hopefully that thing's still up in there.
Guys, Bonnie's going into labor! We gotta get her to the hospital! Quick, Peter, get the car!
What's the rush, Joe? The baby waited several years, surely he can wait an extra hour or two. Luckily for Bonnie, she's surrounded by a ton of support at the hospital.
Get out of there! Get the hell out of my wife, you little bastard!
Well, Joe, you might have just scared the thing all the way back into Bonnie's esophagus with that. But after enough work, Bonnie gives birth to a little baby girl.
It's hard to believe she's already 18.
Now, was that a joke about how long she'd been inside there, or was Quagmire already trying to make his move mere seconds after birth? God, I really hope it's option one. But unfortunately, they live in America, so now they gotta deal with the medical debt that comes with having a baby.
I got her hospital bill this morning.
How bad is it?
It's $20,000.
For that money, you could have bought a pretty decent car. Probably has a better return value than the kid. So Joe picks up a second job to pay the bills until he's approached by a guy who offers to help.
How much you need?
Look, I'm a police officer. I can't afford to get mixed up with a loan shark.
Well, I'm not seeing any gills or fins on this guy, so maybe he can be trusted. But now the hospital bill is paid, Joe has to worry about paying back the loan sharks. This really was like putting a bandage on a decapitation, wasn't it?
Look what they did to me. My legs are useless now.
But maybe Carter could help them out. After all, he's a notoriously generous guy.
Of course I could. But it's funnier to me if I don't.
Yeah, that guy would rather watch thousands of dollars burn than help those in need.
If that stingy old Carter won't give us the money we need, I say we take it from him.
So the fellas hatch a plan to rob Peter Schmidt Mansion during an expensive dinner party.
My father-in-law has treated me like crap for almost 20 years, and it's time for a little payback.
I'd say stealing $40 million from him isn't exactly little, but I'm here for it. So the guys infiltrate the party, and after Peter and Quagmire provide a dancing distraction, Cleveland is able to make it to the vault.
Looks like I'm just gonna have to cut through it. Good thing I brought Reese Witherspoon's chin.
Some celebrities will let you just carry them around in a duffel bag, I guess. Hollywood really is a weird place. The guys make it all the way into the vault, but before they can swipe their prize, Lois crashes their operation.
Think about your beautiful little girl. You can't watch her grow up from jail.
Well, he wouldn't have to worry about that if nobody squeals. You ain't no narc, are you, Lois?
Guys, put the money back and get out of there.
Well, Joe realizes what he's doing is wrong and backs down. Very honorable of him, but at the end of the day, Carter losing 20 grand would just be another drop in a very, 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 very big bucket for him. But Joe would try to make some money as a children's book author, only to get booted after the publisher wanted to make Peter the face of the book in the Book of Joe. So while Peter's over at Joe's for a cookout, he stumbles across what appears to be Joe's art studio.
Hey, Joe, what are all these pictures?
Oh, nothing. They're just some stupid scribbles I've been working on for a children's book.
Don't sell yourself short, Joe. You're definitely the most talented artist out of the group. Quagmire's an artist too, but you can't exactly hang what he does in a museum.
I've been working on this book for 9 years, but I've been too afraid to show it to anybody.
Come on, Joe, you can't be afraid.
Actually, he can. Having someone criticize your art is like being stabbed in the heart with the dullest butter knife.
It's about a handicapped squirrel who has to learn to overcome his disability so he can survive in the wild.
Wow, self-insert much? But Peter convinces Joe to share his passion project with the world.
I took your advice and sent my book to a publisher. They're gonna publish The Hopeful Squirrel.
To be fair, this would actually make for an important kids book today. So Joe decides to do a live reading for kids, but unfortunately, his stage presence isn't the best.
Hey, eyes front, I'm talking!
Don't tell my kid what to do.
Well, maybe if you did, I wouldn't have to.
Sorry, Joe, but the only reading the kids are into these days is from TikToks, which are just big walls of text for some reason. So Peter decides to swoop in and save the day.
For if I could not forgive, then I would be truly handicapped.
I guess it takes a man-child to know what children want because the books start flying off the shelves. So Joe's publisher suggests making a change.
You would write the books, and your friend Peter would be the public face of the Hopeful Squirrel.
Yeah, never mind that he's not handicapped. It's not like that's an integral part of the book or anything. So Peter is now playing the role of author, getting invited onto talk shows to discuss the inspiration for the book.
I'd see these cripple kids limping down the sidewalk on my way to work, and I would just laugh and laugh.
I think the guy who wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar said the same thing about kids who eat too much. Who knew children's books were so mean-spirited?
You totally screwed up my book. You're getting kids to laugh at handicapped people when I'm trying to inspire them.
But the public loves Peter and his dumb little squirrel voice, so he refuses to back down from the project.
You've ruined this for me. I want nothing to do with the book, and I want nothing to do with you.
But now Peter has to really figure out that whole children's author thing.
Now the publisher wants another book, and it's all on me.
But kids don't know nothing about nothing. Surely Peter can deliver on what the kids want.
The monkey's kick-ass buzzsaw hand tore his head open. His brains! His brains!
You could probably find the same quality of writing scrawled onto the wall of an asylum.
You're awful.
That was the worst.
We had trouble hearing you in the back.
What do you mean the kids didn't enjoy a book about gratuitous violence, illicit substances, and streetwalkers?
I'm sorry Joe's dream didn't work out for you, Peter.
What was I thinking?
I think the issue is that you weren't thinking. So Peter apologizes to Joe for taking away all his success and attention.
If I could not forgive, then I would be truly handicapped.
What?
It's from the book, Peter.
I do think Peter's brain is kind of just on autopilot most of the time. So Joe may not have had the fame and admiration he could have had, but at least he still has his friendship with Peter. That's not a great trade-off if you ask me. And Joe would trade places with Peter when his father came to town while having to endure his father's constant ridicule of handicapped people in Papa Has a Rollin Son. So Father's Day is coming up, and out of the guys, Joe's the only one whose father we haven't seen.
Yeah, my dad's out there somewhere, but I haven't spoken to him in years.
But every father deserves to be with their son on Father's Day.
You got a perfectly good dad. You can't waste that. You gotta call him up for Father's Day.
Peter, I don't even know where he is.
Well, if Joe's gonna get colder than usual feet, Peter and the guys will just have to find him themselves.
I found Joe's dad on the internet, and he just emailed me to say he's coming tomorrow.
You can find anyone in the world on the internet, yet I can't find a straight answer on how much pasta you're supposed to cook per person. Truly incredible technology.
You shouldn't have done that, Peter. My father's not going to be happy to see me.
Turns out Joe's dad was always making jokes about handicapped people, so after his accident, he couldn't bring himself to face him.
I never told him.
Great, now he's crying in the bar, which is only slightly less acceptable than crying in the club.
We'll just figure out a way to hide your handicap from your dad.
Hide the fact that I can't walk.
Yeah, all we need is some strings, some propellers, some stilts. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it more, this isn't gonna work.
This is how we're gonna fool Joe's dad.
Oh my god.
Yeah, looks real, right?
Looking about as real as Godzilla did in those old movies. So when strapping Joe to a horse obviously doesn't work, Peter gets the bright idea that maybe a human should be Joe.
I'll just pretend to be you. I mean, your dad ain't seen you in years. He won't know the difference.
I don't know, he might think his son really let himself go. He may even hate him more than he would if he was handicapped.
Huh? Huh?
Kinda.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Great, now you have the build of an 18th century duchess. But they decide to give it a try.
Joe? Wow, I guess it really has been a long time. I barely recognize you. Put on a little weight, haven't you?
Yeah, that's what you open with when you haven't seen your son in years. And while Peter does that, Joe pretends to be Peter because it's funny. Isn't that good enough?
Oh, this'll be fun. Let's see how long it takes them to get Gumby over there into the car.
Wow, a Gumby reference? So he's not just an ableist, he's old. At least the ruse will end after today.
Bud's not leaving. I told him he can move in with me and Bonnie.
What?
Not gonna lie, I think Peter just wants to keep driving the cop car. I'd do the same thing if I was allowed to drive. Dang clam hands.
I'm thinking that I've had 2 dads, and neither one cared for me as much as Bud does.
That's fair too. I don't see Mickey showing up for Father's Day, but something tells me he isn't legally allowed on a plane. But a man can only hear so many insulting comments before he starts to break.
See, a guy like that should just stay inside so we don't have to look at him.
Geez, did a guy in a wheelchair sleep with his wife or something? Or is it possible to just be born a huge douche?
Now get inside.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
Oh, yes, you are.
Unfortunately for Peter, Joe's more of a man than him with only half the body.
You can't let yourself get beat up by a guy in a wheelchair.
Your son is a guy in a wheelchair.
So Joe finally comes clean to his father, who owns up to his insecurities involving handicapped people.
I guess I could never stand the thought of something like that happening to me. Or even worse, to someone that I care about.
Well, Joe's proof that it's not the legs that make the man, it's the man that makes the man. That sounded better in my head.
I love you, son.
I love you too, Dad.
But Joe's most important relationship in his life would start to crumble as Bonnie traveled all the way to Paris to cheat on him in foreign affairs. So Lois and Bonnie are vacationing in Paris together, looking to do all the things Parisians do.
I came here to have an affair.
An affair? With who?
Anyone?
Ah yes, the traditional French pastime. European culture is truly an enigma. Why not at least enjoy the food first?
You know what I'd really like? A piece of that.
Bonnie, for God's sake, stop it.
I mean, she is on vacation, so I get why she wants to skip the meals and just go straight to the desserts.
Joe and I have been growing apart for a long time. Besides, we've had a good run.
Yeah, you got one kid who's traumatized from being in the military and another who was in your womb for like 8 years. Not sure if that sounds like a good run to me.
Would you like to sample a warm French baguette?
Oh my.
Sorry, pal, she's not looking for bread. Better keep it moving. Lois tries to talk her out of it, finally getting Bonnie to budge.
I guess you're right, Lois. It's just that sometimes I feel like I don't even know Joe anymore.
He has literally barely changed over the show's run. How do you not know him? But even though she's in Paris, Bonnie's still looking for something that feels a bit familiar.
Look, Lois, don't make a big deal about it. I just needed a change from Joe.
Bonjour.
So your issues with Joe aren't related to him being in a wheelchair? I guess that's character progression, though I won't say it's for the better overall. Well, Bonnie and Francois are certainly getting to know each other, so much so that he pops a big question on Bonnie.
I have so enjoyed your intimacy these past few days. Will you stay here with me?
Yeah, a few days seems like a good enough vetting process. You've gone from a holiday affair to straight psychosis now.
Oh my God, you're not gonna do it, are you?
Well, I'm thinking about it.
I know Joe has his moments, but he can't be that bad to the point where you're ready to throw your entire life away, right? Well, on their last day in Paris, Bonnie seems to have made up her mind.
Lois, I've thought a lot about this, and I'm not going with you.
Yeah, she thought you'd say that, so she decided to break girl code and make Bonnie really face her decision head on.
Joe, what are you doing here?
He'll be damned if his French counterpart is going to ruin 80 years of marriage. Well, that's 80 married to a handicapped guy years, according to Bonnie.
I love you, and I need you. Please come home with me.
As fun as it is being fought over by two men, Bonnie does need to make a decision. But who loves Bonnie the most?
I would do anything for you.
Well, there's one thing he can't do.
So with all the chips down, with all his cards on the table, Joe harnesses the power of true love and maybe some dark magic to stand on his own 2 feet.
Joe! Joe! I don't believe it! You're walking!
I am!
So were you just not trying that hard to walk all these years? Ah, whatever. At least you got your girl back.
Let's go home, Joe.
Well, what's one little lie about a miracle to save a marriage, huh? Now I just wonder if Quagmire's hoping he gets unstrapped before they make it to the bedroom. Kinda seems like something he would be into. But Joe wasn't too happy about all that and ended up getting pressured into cheating on Bonnie by Peter to get even with her in internal affairs. So Joe's being hailed as a hero after making a huge bust right in Quahog.
Great job, Joe.
Way to go!
There he is.
Live it up now before the people go back to calling you a pig, Joe. But not everyone is as impressed with his feat.
I made a major drug bust today, the biggest one the force has ever seen.
That's great, Joe.
Whoa, keep the praise and admiration down, Bonnie. Don't want to get an HOA noise complaint.
I don't know if I can take another evening of sympathetic eye contact from all the other wives.
Looks like someone forgot to pay the electric bill because whatever light was inside her seems to be gone. But later at Joe's party, he meets someone who seemingly does care.
I just wanted to say congratulations. I'm Nora. I just joined the force.
Finally, some attention from the opposite gender that doesn't seem to be filled with disdain and disappointment.
You know how they say never meet your heroes? Well, they don't say anything about kissing them.
Well, they probably should say something because you've known this man for a full 30 seconds. Joe tells the guys about it, but they're pretty chill about the idea of Joe cheating on Bonnie.
Didn't Bonnie have that affair in Paris?
I don't want to talk about that.
Hey, continuity! Joe can forgive, but he can never forget. But according to his friends, he should be a little less forgiving.
You owe it to Bonnie to have sex with this woman. It's for the good of your marriage.
Quagmire, that's such a stretch that I may as well call you Mr. Fantastic. But this doesn't feel right to Joe, so he lets Nora know that he's not interested.
It's not that I don't find you attractive. I do. I'm married.
As a married man, you probably didn't need to throw in that little compliment. That's like throwing wood into an already raging fire. But great timing, Bonnie's calling.
I meant to call someone else.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how is everything?
Look, I'm not gonna say Joe's in the right to do what he does next, but Bonnie really isn't making this a hard decision for him.
I want you.
I want you too.
Come on. I have a little place we can go to.
A handicap stall. I guess it's probably the most romantic of all the bathroom stalls. I mean, have you seen how much legroom those things have?
Did you bring protection?
Oh, don't worry. Nothing comes out of the front.
I know a lot about your body, Joe, and all of it has been against my will. So the next day at his son's birthday party, Joe tells the guys of his adultery and seems to be regretting it.
I'm not mad at Bonnie anymore. I'm just mad at myself.
Maybe next to the baby monitor wasn't the best place to have this conversation, or in front of the baby. I can tell she's gonna remember this.
You cheated on me? You bastard!
She's right to be upset, but you didn't need 20/20 vision to see this coming.
Well, how do you think I felt when I found out you slept with that French guy, huh?
I never slept with Francois.
Uh-oh. So it looks like the game of telephone from Lois to Peter to Quagmire to Joe got that whole incident a bit misconstrued. But let's be real, this relationship was already going downhill.
I want a divorce!
You got it!
But Peter tries to get them to fall in love again by recreating the day they first met, featuring exotic dancers and Africa by Toto playing in the background. How could you not fall in love here?
I just want to say I'm sorry. I was a real ass, and I miss you.
I'm sorry, too.
And like how birds shake their feathers and tails to impress a mate, Joe decides to do the same thing. Kinda. Well, they are in the right place for it, when in Rome, I guess. Joe almost really screwed this one up, but that's what you get for taking advice from Peter. Which is weird because he's usually correct about everything. But Peter isn't the only Griffin to worry about, as Brian would go on to steal Bonnie from him as the pair ran away together in the Heartbreak Dog. So it's Bonnie's birthday, and if there's one thing Joe knows, it's that women love jokes about their age.
Welcome to Bonnie's 29th birthday party. I can't keep this up.
Don't think anyone's asking you to, honestly. He did do something sweet by putting together videos from their honeymoon together.
Yeah, Cabo was great. We even went back for our 10th anniversary.
Only this time there's a significant lack of a will to go on behind those eyes. Later that night, Brian hears Bonnie crying from the bedroom. Come on, turning 46 isn't that bad. I say as I am nowhere near that age.
But now I'm 46, and all I've ever done is take care of Joe.
Brian, who is also a champion of doing nothing with his life, comforts her in her time of need. But maybe he's a bit too comforting.
You're a good girl. You're gonna be okay.
Uh-oh, they've made prolonged eye contact. Now Brian's in love.
I'm sorry, I didn't... I didn't mean...
No, it's okay.
Brian admits what he's done to Peter, one of the last people you should ever tell secrets to.
Brian, if Joe finds out, he'll kill you.
Yeah, no kidding. That's why you can't tell anybody.
Sorry, Brian, but this story needs a little thing called conflict, so it's probably gonna come out sooner or later. But when Brian and Bonnie eventually run into each other again, it's clear there's something between them.
There's definitely some kind of connection between us, but...
I felt it too, but maybe in another life.
Don't worry, I'm sure there's some fanfiction writer out there keeping Bryony alive and well. Unfortunately for them, Joe acts out the exact charade that gets Peter to spill the beans.
Wait, I know it. The other night at your party, Brian kissed Bonnie.
Actually, what he was looking for was Marmaduke, the 2010 movie Marmaduke. You were close though. So Brian apologizes to Joe, hoping they can just put that whole kiss behind them.
Mad at my buddy Brian? Not a chance. Hey, is that your car?
Hey, you don't want to get towed? Don't park in the driveway of the home you legally live in, I guess. So to get Joe to stop torturing Brian, the gang holds an intervention to talk things out.
Oh, Brian's a complete dick, we all know that. But I think we're losing sight of the point that Bonnie's a weird slut.
Okay, so this was actually just an excuse to roast both of them. Honestly, that's probably what was needed.
They don't get us, Bonnie. And you deserve better than this. We both do.
So the lovebirds run off together. Surely an unemployed dog and housewife will have the necessary funds to survive.
So, do you have like a credit card?
Nope. And no cash either. But I don't care.
You may start caring once it's time to eat. Looks like your options are either the Prius or each other. Yeah, I heard it as soon as I said it. So the pair start working at a diner to make some money, but it's safe to say the honeymoon phase is officially over.
And stop breathing through your mouth, it's really annoying.
I'm panting, that's how I sweat, you dumb bitch.
They're not even married yet, and I bet they're already looking forward to the divorce. Luckily, Joe manages to find them and apologizes to Bonnie.
And if you're willing to come back home, I promise I'll spend the rest of my days taking care of you.
Though he still may need a hand with his diaper changing. Regardless, Bonnie and Joe embrace, and Joe learns to stifle his dislike for Brian.
I guess just call me Cupid, huh? You're welcome.
Starting now. And Joe had to start learning to live with none of his motor functions when he became completely paralyzed from the neck down in Brokeback Swanson. So the guys hear about a local bull run event, and like most guys who've been drinking, they think it sounds like a great idea.
You guys, we are so doing that bull run.
Buying the tickets as we speak.
But we can't tell Joe.
Of course not, he'll be dead weight.
Maybe, but he just needs to hit one descending hill and he's golden. But good luck explaining those Spanish fits to him. You know Joe loves a good outfit.
We're going to the seriously wicked bull run. We didn't invite you because we didn't think you could keep up.
Which is funny considering he's easily the most in shape of the four. Where does it say in the rules that the bull run involves running anyway? So the guys get off to a good start.
This is amazing! I told you guys I could do it!
But everyone has a mortal enemy. Batman and the Joker, Superman and Lex Luthor, and wheelchairs and bottle caps. Well, he's been through a lot worse, and after all, you can't paralyze your legs twice. The rest of his body, though, that's fair game.
I can't feel anything below my neck! I can't move a muscle, guys!
So now Joe's lost basically all motor functions.
Mr. Swanson has lost all movement and will require around-the-clock care. Most of it disgusting.
Dang, looks like Bonnie has her work cut out for her.
I'm leaving Joe and moving to Europe. I didn't sign up for this.
I guess in sickness and in health was more of a suggestion than a vow. Luckily, Joe has some stand-up pals who will help him adjust to his new life.
And you probably don't want any reminders of Bonnie around the house, so I cleared out all of her underwear.
But don't worry, Joe, they're going to a good home. One where Quagmire will probably wear them just as much as Bonnie did. But after the constant care and attention starts to weigh down on them, they decide to put him in someone else's hands.
I looked into it, and we've reserved a place for him at the State Home for Mentals and Bastards.
And which one is Joe supposed to be exactly? So they dump Joe off, but not before Peter has one last touching heart-to-heart about Joe's favorite movie.
Backdraft, you finally watched it!
Yeah.
Wasn't it great?
I thought it was stupid.
Aw, their friendship is as deep as an inflatable kiddie pool. But of course, this spur-of-the-moment decision wasn't run by anyone semi-sensible. Unfortunately, no one like that exists in this town, so Lois will have to do.
Peter, those places are a horror show. Joe's your friend. How could you treat him like that?
Pretty easily, actually. Dumping Joe off was probably the quickest dump Peter's ever done in his life. So the gang goes to retrieve him, apologizing for giving up so quickly.
We're all really sorry we abandoned you.
Yeah, we just kind of got overwhelmed and all freaked out.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what that's like, would you, Joe? Having to upend your entire life due to a sudden change? So they decide to ring up Dr. Hartman to get Joe released, but it looks like the call is coming from inside his back.
Dr. Hartman must have dropped his phone in Joe when he was looking at his spine.
And wouldn't you know it, that's what caused Joe's quadriplegia. But look, they're running out of time and they gotta wrap this episode up.
I'm just glad to be back on my feet. Well, you know what I mean.
So is Bonnie just gone now? Hopefully so, because if she can't handle Joe at his lowest, she doesn't deserve him at his slightly better than his lowest. But Joe truly saw his lowest point when he tried to end it all at Niagara Falls multiple times in the episode #JOLO. So Peter's trying to prove there's actual pudding in this giant billboard, but finds a kid up there instead.
Oh my God, Peter! That's the lost Nicholson kid! He's been missing for a week!
You see a missing kid, but I see the greatest hide-and-seek champion of the modern age. So for his completely accidental good deed, Peter's hailed as a hero by the town.
Wow. 20 years on the force and no one's ever clapped for me.
Don't worry, Joe, your participation trophy's on its way in the mail. But Peter's carefree way of life seems to have worked well for him, so Joe decides to give it a try.
Hey, Chief, it's Swanson. I quit.
You know, most guys going through a crisis either buy a motorcycle or grow a mustache. Now how are you going to support your wife and child?
You and I are done too.
What?
I'm leaving you.
Well, that solves that problem. About time you got a taste of your own medicine, Bonnie. Now that he's going it solo, Joe's ready to take on the world in a whole new way.
I was living my life all wrong, but not anymore. No more thinking, just living.
Maybe you could have thought about not making an air hockey table the only furniture you have in the apartment. It's okay, you're still learning, but he's got some big plans ahead.
What would you guys think of a road trip?
Oh, yeah, I'm in.
Awesome road trip.
So the group travels to Niagara Falls, the home of people who want to recreate Jim and Pam's wedding episode.
We showed them. We showed them all.
Showed who? What the hell's he talking about?
Sounds like the car ride psychosis is already set in. Being in the same seat for hours does quite a number on your backside, even if Joe can't feel his.
Didn't I tell you guys it's the most magnificent place in the world, and the greatest place to end it all?
It truly is one of nature's most beautiful... What was that last part? Joe, you better have been a bird disguised as a human this whole time.
Joe, you're alive!
Are you hurt?
Not physically, but his pride and self-respect are probably broken beyond repair at this point. So after Joe gets pulled up like a toy in a claw machine, he reveals his reasoning behind this whole trip.
I'm sorry I tricked you guys into coming. I just wanted to spend my last week with my best pals.
So Joe feels worthless and unable to accomplish anything. Is it too soon to say he might make a great professional diver?
Hey, where's Joe?
Joe, wait!
Don't worry, he's fine. Not gonna say he can't accomplish anything, but...
What we really need to do is bring him back to Quahog where we can get him some help.
Or, counteroffer, you stay for a bit and enjoy the beauty of the falls. And that's exactly what they do. Who could possibly have a mental health crisis with a view like that?
You mind opening that door? Get a little breeze in here?
That's the oldest trick in the book, but Peter doesn't know how to read, so he falls for it. Unfortunately, their tumbling causes the cable car to drop them outside. Well, there's no better way to see the falls than by barreling toward them downstream.
Don't worry, I'm coming!
So Joe does some sick tricks to get to the ground, even managing to beat them downstream to make the save.
Guys, grab onto my legs!
Got it.
Thank goodness for Joe's absurd upper body strength. And with that impressive feat, Joe earns the admiration he deserves and finds the will to keep on chugging along.
It took seeing you guys almost die to realize that life really is worth living.
So next time you're feeling down on yourself, just put your friends in a life or death situation? Alright, if you say so, Joe. But the worst thing that ever happened to Joe has to be when he was paralyzed by a criminal he would end up hunting down years later in Joe's Revenge. So Joe gets a little emotional when he hears about the arrest of a guy named Bobby Briggs.
Bobby Briggs is the one who put me in this wheelchair. And they got him. They finally got him.
So it turns out his little battle with the Grinch that he told us about when he made his first appearance was actually a lie. I mean, the Grinch isn't real after all, right?
I lied because I was ashamed of the real story. That I let a vicious criminal get away.
Basically, Joe blew an undercover job while trying to bust Bobby for dealing narcotics.
Get ready to spend the rest of your life as a lame imp with an annoying-voiced wife.
Honestly, his prediction was spot on. He better have kept that luck rolling and bought a lottery ticket that day. Unfortunately, Joe's happiness is short-lived.
Longtime fugitive Bobby Briggs has escaped from police custody. His whereabouts are currently unknown.
He's probably on his way over right now to finish the job and shoot Joe in the arms too. But Joe decides he's gonna go on the hunt himself.
I want you to put me on the Briggs case.
Absolutely not.
Come on, Chief! I know everything about Briggs!
Except where he's been hiding for the past 15 years. But I'm sure he knows other useful things, like his hair color. But if Joe can't go after him as a cop, he'll need to go after him as a rogue cop. That's like a 50% cooler cop.
This is about you as a man. Come on, what do you say? Quagmire and I'll help you bring this guy to justice.
Don't you hate it when your friends volunteer you to track down a dangerous criminal? So Joe introduces them to his Pepe Sylvia-style room filled with all the information he has on Briggs. Geez, why don't you date him if you're gonna be this obsessed?
Briggs' FBI profile says the only relationship he's maintained over the years is with a stripper named Tanya.
So they decide to pay the working girl a visit, but she's not coughing up the info.
I don't know any Bobby Briggs, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Looks like this calls for some dirty cop work. Luckily, they've got the dirtiest guy in Quahog tagging along.
I'm gonna have to do the Vulcan V-meld.
His methods may be questionable, but damn it if they don't get the job done.
He lives at 2820 Ocean Boulevard across from the park, apartment 2.
What do you think the odds are that some guy watching this video just got his address doxed? So they decide to perform a wellness check on Mr. Briggs.
Who are you?
Joe Swanson.
Who?
Awkward. You go around paralyzing a lot of guys for life, Briggs? Bobby gives him the slip, leading to an intense chase across rooftops.
It looks like you're at a roof.
Well, mission accomplished, I guess. Actually, Bobby manages to disappear into the night.
It's gone, you guys! I had him! That was our one chance!
But the guys get a tip that Bobby is heading for the Mexico border, so they head there to cut him off.
Come on, what's going on up there?
Briggs!
How were you on the lam for 15 years? Joe gives chase, tackling him into a stream and eventually turning Briggs' own gun on him.
You're not gonna get away this time, you son of a bitch.
I mean, he does have a perfectly fine pair of working legs, he could just run off again. Luckily, Joe has accounted for that.
So what are you gonna do, arrest me?
No, I don't arrest balls.
That, my friends, is what we call poetic justice. Now Bobby will pay for his sins through the same pain he inflicted on— oh shoot, he's dead.
I think he bled out. I must have hit the femoral artery.
Okay, so that was about as poetic as one of those jokes you find on a popsicle stick, but at least Joe finally has a major victory in his life. And you can be victorious too by subscribing to the Sweaty Clam channel. That way you can stay up to date on the tons of Family Guy content posted to the channel with new uploads every week.